In the golden age of animation, experimentation was the word of the day. Sure, there were the toons everyone remembers, like Popeye and Mickey Mouse, but there were just as many strange cartoons that didn't feature these popular characters. In this episode, we're going to dive headfirst into 10 more strange, forgotten, and some downright disturbing cartoons from the past. So grab a bowl of Sugar Smacks or Captain Crunch, and let's get into it. Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, reruns of it. Hell's Bells, 1929, Walt Disney Studios. This cartoon was part of the Disney Silly Symphony series, and is Disney at its creepiest. It kicks off with flames swallowing the screen, leaving us smack in the middle of hell. Bats swarm a fiery cavern, while a spider swings over the pit. An alligator snarls and crawls into a fire pit, followed by a three-headed dog whose snapping jaws get right up in our faces. A bat teases a snake, but the joke's on him as the snake swallows him whole, sprouts wings, and flies off. From there, the scene gets even weirder. We see Satan's orchestra, which has a mix of actual instruments and macabre oddities like a cello made from a spine and pelvis. Demons dance wildly to the music of the classical composition Funeral March of a Marionette. You know, the song used later as the theme song to Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Satan laughs at the proceedings, then rings a bell for refreshments. Little demon servants squeeze fiery milk from a monstrous dragon-cow hybrid, which he gulps down before feeding one of the demons to his three-headed dog. When he tries to feed the other demon to the dog, the demon refuses and runs off. Satan gives chase, only to be tricked and kicked over a cliff. Satan ends up being smacked by flames and dragged into the fiery depths of hell. How a Mosquito Operates, 1912, Winsor McCay. This next cartoon is one of the weirdest and earliest silent cartoons ever made. This 6-minute short looks simple now, but it really blew people's minds at the time. In it, a giant top hat wearing mosquito sneaks into a room to feast on a confused sleeper. The mosquito, who even brings his own suitcase, relentlessly feasts on the poor guy, getting bigger and bigger with each bite until finally he explodes. Winsor McCay, who was already famous for his comic strip Little Nemo, dives into new territory here as a pioneer of character animation. The mosquito isn't just a bug, it's got personality. It does push-ups on the guy's nose, and even tips its hat mid-meal. The animation itself, all hand-drawn years before Disney, features realistic motion and timing. Audiences had never seen anything like it. A funny, disturbing, and sophisticated cartoon that told a story with no words, just pure visuals. If you want to get a look at where cartoons and animated black humor began, check out How a Mosquito Operates. It's a must-watch blast from the past. Tom and Jerry in The Magic Mummy, 1933, Van Buren Studios. This one features Van Buren's Tom and Jerry, not the famous cat and mouse, but the human duo. It kicks off with the boys working as police officers, listening to music while cruising in their patrol car. In a wild scene of police headquarters, the whole precinct is jamming to music, with officers dancing around with convicts while one officer plays the piano. Suddenly, a call comes in, sending Tom and Jerry to the local museum where a mummy has been stolen. In a bizarre scene, a shadowy, ghoulish figure is seen carrying the mummy's coffin into a graveyard as the boys follow behind. A concealed stairway is revealed beneath the grave where the ghoul opens the coffin and unwraps the mummy. Like magic, an Egyptian princess is revealed beneath the bandages, and she suddenly comes to life as the ghoul commands her to sing. An audience of skeletons begins to clap for the resuscitated mummy, and they start playing on their bones like xylophones. It's an all-out ghoulish party, with the mummy dancing like an Egyptian on stage and the skeletons playing instruments that appear from nowhere. Meanwhile, Tom and Jerry, who've been trapped this whole time, finally escape and try to rescue the mummy. The animation is a little rough around the edges, but it adds to the weird quality of the cartoon. The Magic Mummy is creepy and wild, and if you're looking for strange, this one really delivers. Mutt and Jeff in Slick Sleuths, 1926, Bud Fisher. This silent short is probably the strangest Mutt and Jeff cartoon ever made. You probably already know Mutt and Jeff from the comic strip of the same name. They first appeared in 1907 and are regarded as the first successful daily comic strip ever made. Their animated series, launched in 1916, ran for 292 shorts and practically invented the formula for slapstick cartoon duos. But of all their misadventures, Sleuths stands out for being especially weird. In this short, our heroes are bumbling detectives on the trail of a mysterious phantom thief who's a ghostly figure that slides under doors, escapes every trap, and can tunnel anywhere in an instant. Mutt and Jeff try to capture the phantom as his shadowy form morphs into doorways and windows, which confuses the duo as to where he went. Jeff finally gets the police to come with a dozen of them piled into one strange vehicle that runs away like a dog, and by the time we get to the end, the whole wild chase turns out to be a dream. Sleuths even had a second life in the 1970s when it was colorized, redubbed, and spliced with live-action dancers for a film called The Weird Adventures of Mutt and Jeff and Bug Off.
Oasis. Schmoasis.
I'll leave a link to that one in the description. Anyway, give Sleuths a watch. It's truly one of the oddest pieces of vintage cartoon history. The Telltale Heart, 1953, United Productions of America. This next one is one of the most unsettling animated shorts ever produced in Hollywood. Some cartoons make you laugh, some make you smile, and then there's the Telltale Heart, which makes you feel like you're staring into a nightmare you can't wake up from. UPA took Edgar Allan Poe's story of guilt and madness and stripped it down into stark, jagged imagery that's unnerving and unforgettable. Nothing looks quite right. Rooms twist and warp, shadows crawl across the walls, and human faces distort into masks of fear. Guiding it all is the voice of James Mason, whose silky narration makes the horror even more disturbing. He doesn't scream, he doesn't rant. He calmly whispers the unraveling of a murderer's mind.
I replaced the planks so cleverly. No eye, not even his, could have found anything wrong.
As though he's confessing directly to you. The effect is claustrophobic, chilling, and impossible to shake. This short was so intense that when it premiered in Britain, it was slapped with an X certificate, usually reserved for adult films. Think about that for a minute. A cartoon considered too disturbing for general audiences. More than 70 years later, it still feels raw, experimental, and genuinely frightening. If you're brave enough, try watching it alone late at night with the lights off. See if you can still sleep without hearing that heartbeat echoing in the dark. Duck Pimples, 1945, Walt Disney Studios. The title is a takeoff on the term goosebumps or pimples, but the short is actually one of Donald Duck's strangest adventures. It's a full-on parody of radio crime dramas and film noir mysteries. It begins on a stormy night with Donald trying to relax, only to be rattled by one sinister radio program after another. Just when he thinks he's had enough, there's a knock at the door. A mysterious book salesman appears and opens his coat to reveal a stack of crime novels for Donald, and then vanishes. Donald cracks one open, and that's when things spiral out of control. The novel literally comes to life in his living room. A gruff detective, a femme fatale, and a missing string of pearls pull Donald straight into the story. Soon, he's accused of theft, menaced by knives and axes, and even gets shot, but the bullets turn out to be a paper fan. Finally, the author himself appears and clears Donald's name, and then declares the real crook to be the detective himself. The whole nightmare evaporates and leaves Donald unsure if it was his imagination or something more. Finally, the missing pearls appear, glowing around Donald's neck. This Donald Duck cartoon doesn't rely on slapstick for humor, but instead plays like a strange mystery spoof. It stands out as one of the weirdest Donald Duck adventures ever made. Goofy Go Antics, 1931, Ted Eschbaugh Studios. This was one of the first color cartoons ever created, but only a black and white print still exists. Ted Ashbaugh was one of the early pioneers of animation and intended this cartoon to be the start of a new series, but it turned out to be the only entry. The short opens up with Goofy Goat driving an old jalopy on his way to the Glee Club for a show, and he gets stuck in traffic behind a road hog, which turns out to be a real hog driven in a limo by a monkey. Goofy gets around the limo and finally arrives at the club as the show begins. There's a wild cast of characters playing musical instruments inside the club, including Goofy's girlfriend, Nanny Goat, who plays the piano with Goofy stuck inside. Goofy gets annoyed by a couple of bagpipe-playing dogs and decides to play a homemade accordion, which seems to have a mind of its own. The accordion starts to laugh and runs away, with Goofy chasing it and using it as a punching bag. Finally, a pelican shows up for some reason and eats Goofy's accordion, and Goofy rides it around the stage with Nanny Goat joining him. The cartoon seems more like an exercise in experimentation than one with a cohesive story, and it feels like they kind of just made it up as they went along. But as a technical achievement for the time, it's worth a watch, and it's very strange to say the least. Boy Meets Dog, 1938, Walter Lantz. Boy Meets Dog is a cartoon made for Ipana toothpaste, but if you think this is just an ad with a jingle, think again. It's adapted from Gene Burns' comic strip, Regular Fellers, and is produced by Walter Lantz, the same studio that would later give us Woody Woodpecker. It starts out as a cute story of a boy finding a little dog and bringing him home, but quickly veers into strange territory. When the boy's grumpy, abusive father refuses to let the boy keep the dog, the dad is mystically transported to a fairy tale courtroom run by elves who suspiciously look like they're straight out of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. There, he's locked in a pillory and put on trial for being a bad parent. What follows is one of the weirdest courtroom dramas ever animated. The jury chants guilty before the trial even begins, and the judge, well, he turns out to be his son in disguise. His father is sentenced to get the youth machine that turns him violently into a crying baby. Then, Dad wakes up from a dream with the dog licking his face, and we're shown an ad for Ipana toothpaste. Suddenly, the dad's a good guy and a regular feller, just like the comic strip, out fishing with the local boys. The message, it's clear. Brush your teeth with Ipana and you'll be a better, happier parent. Early ad propaganda at its finest. And that's why it makes the strange cartoon cut. Buzzy Boop at the Concert, 1938, Fleischer Studios. You've heard of Betty Boop, but have you met her young cousin Buzzy? Buzzy Boop at the Concert is a forgotten Fleischer Studios short that remained lost for decades until finally being rediscovered and restored. It's a bizarre blend of opera and jazz, as Buzzy attends a classical music concert with Betty and promptly turns it into a jazz fest. When the opera singer puts everyone to sleep in the audience, including the orchestra, Buzzy, who's a tomboy with a lot of attitude, sneaks up to the stage and starts scat singing, drumming with her hands, and tap dancing. At first, the opera singer is mortified, but by the end, she's singing and tap dancing right along with Buzzy. The audience, which has been asleep this whole time, wakes up to the suddenly energetic music, and by the end, the entire concert hall is into it. The animation is classic Fleischer, but what puts this cartoon in the strange category is the combination of music styles. What starts out as an upper-class snooze fest ends up as a lively dance hall show. It's easy to see the popularity of swing and big band music at the time. Buzzy never got her own series, but this one short cements her as a Boop worth remembering, and one I wish I'd seen more of. Destino, 1945 to 2003, Walt Disney Studios. This next one is one of the strangest projects Disney ever touched. It's a short film that started production in 1945, then vanished, only to be finished nearly 60 years later. Destino was a collaboration between Walt Disney and the surrealist painter Salvador Dali, the man who gave us melting clocks. The idea was to merge Disney's fluid animation with Dali's dreamlike landscapes. For 8 months, Dali and Disney artist John Hench sketched bizarre sequences, desert sands cracking into human faces, ballerinas morphing into geometric shapes, even a baseball player who shatters into abstract forms. But the studio was strapped for cash after World War II and decided to shelve the project. Fast forward to 2003, when Roy E. Disney unearthed the storyboards and had the short finally completed. What we got was a 6-minute moving painting set to haunting Mexican music that tells a surreal love story in true Dali fashion. There's no slapstick, no talking animals, and no real plot. Just hypnotic, unsettling beauty that feels both like Disney and at the same time not like Disney at all. It's probably the boldest experiment the studio has ever attempted. You can't even call it a cartoon, really. It's a moving, surrealist painting, which is a true oddity in the Disney library. If you like these cartoons, click the link at the end for even more strange cartoons. I'll leave links to all of these cartoons in the description. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. This is Rich from Rerun Zone. Thanks for watching, and good night.